Welcome back. In True Lies, marriage comes with a little extra baggage: secret lies, international terrorism, and the occasional exploding building. Harry and Helen's relationship runs on a delicious contradiction. Harry thinks he's lying to protect Helen. The secrecy slowly creates distance between them. To Helen, Harry is a predictable, slightly boring husband. In reality, he's an extraordinarily dangerous man who spends his working hours doing things that would make "how was your day?" a very complicated question. And Helen is bored, very bored. So bored, she nearly has an affair with a sleazy used car salesman. After she is found out, she performs an awkwardly sexy striptease, leading to this discovery that her supposedly ordinary husband is actually a spy. Then, because this is Hollywood, the marriage crisis becomes an adventure. Suddenly, the husband she thought she knew is much more interesting. Their relationship gets a serious jolt of excitement. They rediscover each other as people with far more complicated identities than they realized, and the movie ends with the two of them dancing the tango. Problem solved, right? Not exactly, because real intelligence officers deal with a less glamorous version of the problem. Being an intelligence officer doesn't necessarily mean lying to your spouse about everything. In many intelligence careers, partners can know the broad outlines of what their spouse does, while specific operations, sources, locations, and classified information remains off limits. And that creates a fascinating relationship challenge. How do you build a marriage when one person has a professional life they cannot fully share? One, secrecy isn't the same thing as lying. A spouse might know, "My partner works in intelligence. Sometimes they travel, sometimes they can't tell me what happened." They may not know where their partner was, who they met, or what the mission involved. That's a very different dynamic from inventing an entire alternate life. Healthy relationships in these circumstances require clear boundaries around what can be shared and what simply can't. Two, the information imbalance can be weird. One partner may know things the other simply is not allowed to, and that's uncomfortable. A spouse might sense that something is wrong, but have no way to ask the obvious follow-up question. Okay, but what actually happened? It's hard to support someone when the details are classified. Three, sometimes absence is harder than secrecy. Long assignments, unpredictable schedules, frequent moves, security restrictions, and the psychological weight of the work can put pressure on a marriage, even when both partners understand the rules. You don't need a fake identity to create distance. Sometimes you just need a really bad work schedule. Four, trust becomes even more important. And here's the irony. Someone whose professional life involves deception may need an unusually strong foundation of honesty at home. The distinction becomes, "I can't tell you everything," not "I'm going to deceive you about who I am." The difference is enormous. And five, there's a deeper cover. And this is where True Lies drifts further from reality. Certain undercover or clandestine roles can involve fabricated identities or concealing an agent's occupation. Those situations can create serious ethical and emotional complications in romantic relationships, but that's not representative of everyone who works in intelligence. And because True Lies asks, What happens when your spouse discovers you've been living a secret life? Real life is often closer to how do two people build a marriage when one person's life contains parts they cannot share? And honestly, that's the more interesting question. The healthiest version isn't total transparency. In some intelligence careers, total transparency simply isn't possible. It's trust plus explicit boundaries plus honesty about the boundaries themselves. And that's where True Lies becomes more psychologically interesting than it initially appears. Harry's biggest problem isn't that he's a spy. It's that he has allowed his secret identity to become a wall between him and Helen. At the same time, Helen has built her own version of Harry, an ordinary, predictable husband who doesn't exist. So when the truth comes out, she's not just discovering that Harry is a spy. She's discovering that she never really knew the person she married. And maybe that's the real lesson. You don't need a secret identity to create distance in a marriage. Sometimes all it takes is keeping too much of yourself behind a locked door. What do you think? Is a marriage built on "I can't tell you" fundamentally different from one on "I lied to you"? So go ahead and give the subscribe button a magnifying glass so you never miss a thing. We have enjoyed bringing you Action August, and it continues with Breakdown with Kurt Russell. So you're not going to want to miss a thing. Be sure to subscribe to the Real Relationships podcast. We are on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get podcasts. And we are also on all of the socials. Be sure to follow us on YouTube. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. We appreciate our listeners, our viewers, and our supporters. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon.